Is not allied with any.
Oh my goodness. Slightly intimidating coming to a group that I've not been to before, but I see some familiar faces. My schedule is a little wonky, so my home group really is Silvertip on Sunday nights, and then the women's group on Monday and Wednesday nights, and then as time permits, I bump around to the noon meeting and sometimes the 5:35 happy hour meeting, but I managed to get 4 or 5 meetings in a week, and then I Zoom back home in Oregon with my people there. But I'm Carrie Ann, and I'm an alcoholic. That's the most important thing today, is to share with you part of my story. As my creator would have it, I'm coming on the anniversary of my mom's death. She died a year ago, and I've been a little, just a little wonky the last couple days. I woke up late, threw the hat on, glasses broke, so nothing like a good dose of humility to come in and get out of the way. So I'm going to just start with a set aside prayer, because man, I just want to tell the truth today. I really don't want to bullshit anybody. I just want to tell my story, which I think is a good one. It's our story, right? So, yeah, set aside prayer. God, today help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so that I might have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help me see the truth. And on the way in, I was listening to a beautiful song that my friend wrote. She just released it. If you want to look it up, it's called Truth is My Foundation. And I just want to read just a couple lines from that, because I really hope nothing more than just to tell the truth. God knows we bullshitted and told enough lies in our past that today we learn to tell the truth. So anyway, truth is my foundation. I'm free to fly where spirit will bring me now. I'm free to go where the winds of life will blow. Across the sky, spirit will show me how to spread my wings and rise up with the light. Grandmother, grandfather, creator, please hear my prayer. Eternal ancient wisdom, your essence is everywhere, guiding me on into the new, guiding me on to what is true. Oh, holy fire, show me what is real. My heart is burning. There's so much I feel. Illuminate my path. Carry me into the light of my love. Set me free. I forgive you. I forgive me. I forgive you. And I forgive me. Truth is my foundation, my spirit song. Love is the emanation. My heart is strong, beating in time with the divine, beating in time with the divine, beating in time with the divine, beating in time with the divine cycles of life. These are the cycles of my life. I share that with you because I am both Anglo and I'm both Native. My mom's family comes from the Rocky Boy Reservation, and I present white. My dad was Irish, came from money, so I have this like dichotomy of experience. My mom's family was poverty stricken. They moved off the reservation and lo and behold opened a tavern in downtown Seattle. So my mom came from a tavern owning family. And my dad's family came from a family of professors. They were very educated. They came from Indiana. They had free slaves that lived on their property. So it just is this very interesting experience. What I think brought my mom and dad together was trauma. My dad was a World War II veteran. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge with General Patton. My mother's father, my mom died, she's 96, so explains a little bit of my experience. Her dad fought in France in World War I. So I think what attracted my parents was not really their cultural background or even religious background, but trauma brought them together. So I was the last born of 8. We were not poverty stricken. I had pretty much every opportunity to seek education. I was born, as I like to tell people, with mommy, mommy, my ponytails are too tight. I was just born, with that inner angst, if you will, and being the last born, they were tired and they sort of lost control of their parenting. And so I ran amok. I had wild brothers that were next in line. There were four cousins and four siblings that were all raised together. And so I ran amok. In fact, it was so funny. Somebody posted on Facebook from my neighborhood, did any of you sneak out, And yeah, that's the story of my life, sneaking out of windows, stealing motorbikes, riding around the neighborhood on stolen motorcycles and burning, my leg on the exhaust pipe. I mean, it was just nuts, right? But then something happened. My parents lost control of me and we traded kids. That's common in Native families. And so the summer after my freshman year, granted at sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, I was already drinking, growing weed in my window, selling my mom's Valium at school. I was just hell bent on rebellion, and somebody said, "Yeah, I remember you. You were like a class A delinquent, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade." And I said, "Yeah, God, I really was. Probably more like class B because we returned the motorcycle that we stole." Um, but I was a shoplifter, I made the cheerleading squad, whatever, in seventh grade and got kicked off for shoplifting. So I was really sort of a class B delinquent. And then something happened. My parent lost control and they sent me to live in Washington State with my Pentecostal cousin. And so the summer after my freshman year in high school, I found Jesus and I got baptized in Lake Washington. And it would, let me tell you, it was a spiritual experience. I came up out of the water, out of Lake Washington. The sun I kid you not, like the sun parted the clouds. And I had this spiritual experience. And I came back to high school, my sophomore year in high school, and people were like, "What the fuck happened to you? Like you were not." I remember Alex Laws, my friend Alex Laws said, "Yeah, no way, you're not born again." I said, "Yes, I'm born again." So my sophomore, my junior, my senior year in high school, I changed my group friends. By that time, all of my girlfriends were snorting coke and getting pregnant. And I started hanging out with like Mormons and born agains. And I had this like, I don't know, just trying to find myself, I guess. I remember leading a Bible study with some gay girls and trying to convert them, to not be lesbian anymore. And I mean, it was just this crazy, crazy thing. But we do things, right? We do things in, balls to the wall. That's what we do. So I was straight. I got all kinds of accolades my sophomore, junior, senior in high school. I looked like I was just, squaring up real nicely. And I was, but it was this external, right? It wasn't like this real internal change. The booze had been removed, the sedatives had been removed, the weed had been removed, but I still had that same, like, mommy, mommy, my ponytails are too tight. It's like the Bible was great and it was working to a degree, but then I went off to college and, got shit faced, lost my virginity the first week and ended up, in like with some Palestinian Liberation Organization members in a high-rise apartment of downtown Portland. I mean, I drink and you don't know where I'm going to go. I steal motorcycles. I hang out with PLO members. I end up in the craziest places, like talk about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? So then that was college, got through college, got engaged to Scott the dentist. Broke that engagement on a Tuesday night before the wedding on Saturday, had like 500 people to call. That was special. He was an alcoholic, and I did find out later that he wrote himself a lot of scripts for Ritalin and meth, so I didn't marry him, thankfully. Then I dated Luke the warehouseman, and I got engaged to him, and then I mean I'm just like this I'm just so confused. Like, I don't know who I am, right? Am I native? Am I white? Am I educated? Am I a tavern owner's kid? Like, I just have this, I just don't know who I am. And then I got married. I married my high school sweetheart. We had known each other since we were 12, and it just was a trauma match. That's the only way I can explain it. He played baseball with my brothers. By that time, he'd come home from college. I got pregnant, and we found Jesus again. He was like a promise keeper dude, and then we got super involved in this cult, and so again, the drinking, because of external reasons, got taken away from me. I was involved in Billy Graham's worship. I was a musician, so I got super involved in traveling with some preachers, and traveled Europe and did music with these born agains again, and kind of not exactly born agains, like they were cult members. It was super crazy, and our family didn't drink because it wasn't allowed in the church. So I got sober, and I had my kids. I had my daughter Callie in 92, my son Jake in 94, and I squared up again real nice. I got cleaned up. I was like the Moms in Touch prayer meeting woman who had prayer group every Wednesday on at 6:30 in the mornings. Did that for years. We prayed for our kids. Like, I really tried to be holy, but then I don't know, this mommy, my ponytails are too tight. So only way I can explain it, I just had this angst. The marriage started to get troubled early on. We lasted 26 years. And the last, oh gosh, I would say probably 10 years of the marriage were insane. I was drinking. I was adding sedatives. And for the old timers that don't think sedatives is something appropriate to talk about, I'm here to tell you that on page 22, um, I love this. Is like one of my favorite lines in the big book because it gives me carte blanche to talk about sedatives. Um, yeah, it says that on page 22, as matters grow worse, he begins to use a combination of high-powered sedative and liquor to quiet his nerves so he can go to work. And that's exactly my story. I would wake up and think that I was having a panic attack. But years later, now that I've been sober for, I realized what I was really experiencing was withdrawals, right? So, and we, growing up in an educated family, we always made friends with doctors. My dad had a supply of tranquilizers. My mom had Valium. And my daughter's basketball coach was our family friend, and he was our family doctor. So I had a real good steady supply of benzos. Xanax were a big part of my story. So I drink at night now, and I get up in the morning. And first it was just like a half of Xanax, right? About 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I get up a little shaky in the mornings, and I take another half and go on my way. I managed to finish 32 years of teaching with a combination of what started out as booze and benzos, then became booze, benzos, oxycodone slash weed slash later coke when I was traveling in South America. I mean, my life just got more and more and more insane, and I needed more and more of different combinations. When my husband left, and that's a whole nother story. He too was an addict. Being the good promise keeper, born again Bible study leader, his drug of choice became hookers and blow. So that was a whole nother part of my story that sort of spun our family I mean, this was the family that looked on the outside. I kid you not. He was the town basketball coach. He was the one that did all the auctions for raising money for kids that couldn't afford scholarship for, I mean, it was a small town. My son was the quarterback, the point guard, the relief pitcher. I mean, we kind of looked like we were fun, but all the while, both of us from our trauma and I just trauma soup, we just were spinning and spinning and spinning. Later, I found out that he had been molested by a baseball coach. And so it all kind of starts to make sense now that I know that he was too, um, one of us, and treating his trauma. I mean, that's part of a lot of our stories, right? So I have come really so far and able to forgive him. He's not changed. He may be, I couldn't stay sober married to him because he wanted to keep me sedated. It just toward the end, I was trying. I would get a year sober. He'd go across the border into California and come back with my favorite vodka, Tito's. I'd I'd get sober for another year in the program, and he'd be like, come on, you just gotta try to control it. Just come on, let's go out and you can have 2 drinks and just stop. I couldn't just stop. All bets were off. Uh, Haley knows, and I've asked my daughter if I could tell the story toward the end after he left. We're living in this house. I call it the party house for lack of better words. By that time, I was not the prayer warrior mom anymore. I'd given up all that farce, and I started using drugs with my kids toward the end. You want to talk about incomprehensible demoralization? And the husband had moved in with his mom in one of our rentals, and it was just me with the kids. And we had this grandmother's apartment in the back that my son was living in. He was dealing drugs out of the golf course. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he was a drug dealer. And we just had this rule, like we had to tell each other what we were on. That was really our only rule. We had this honesty is the best policy. So I would come home from teaching and I'd take a shot, or I'd take a bong hit, or take a oxy with a Xanax, chase it with whatever. And the kids would come home and say, okay, what are you on? So I knew enough in the program that we had to be honest. I'd say, okay, well, I've had half a Percocet, I've had a half a Xanax, I've had a shot of Jack Daniels and craft beer. So that was, and then they would do the same. So we had like this, it was, when I say it got insane and it was incomprehensible demoralization, that's what happens to alcoholics who don't stay in the rooms. That's my story. And so I was still teaching. Even during that whole time, I was smoking pot before work. I was teacher of the year for Southern Oregon. I mean, I was still able to pull off I wasn't having consequences other than the addict husband that moved across town. That wasn't enough to get me to stop. Then I got a promotion to become an administrator, and the stress of that was I was working for the federal government in school improvement. Um, and I'm still able to get up and go to work. It's insane. Xanax did that. I really believe that if I hadn't had the benzos, I would have had to get up in the morning and drink, but I didn't. So I think I probably would have gotten sober long sooner if I hadn't had those little football shaped pharmaceuticals to get me through the day. But then the consequences started to happen. People were noticing that I was not particularly stable. And then I didn't show up. I had 300 teachers that I was supposed to do a school improvement PowerPoint, and I just couldn't get up and go to work. And so I called one of my partners and said, listen, I just am not well. I just, and she could tell that I was slurring my speech. And she sent a police officer over to my house to do a well check. And that doesn't really fare very well with school administrators and superintendents. So they had a meeting and they decided that I probably should go back to the classroom and not be an administrator anymore. So consequence, right? Then I went to a music party, had a great night, smoked some weed, took a couple shots, probably a benzo and oxy, and drove my car. And I got pulled over by a police officer. And not only did I get pulled over by the police officer, but I was really abusive toward that police officer and I got put in jail. That was not good. Still, that was not enough. They put me in a treatment program in September and I white knuckled off of the benzos, the trazodone, the oxys, the weed. You want to talk about somebody who should have gone to treatment? I should have gone to treatment. I didn't sleep for 6 months to a year. Still wasn't enough though. I was rolling the dice, and on Thursday nights, I would drink because I would roll the dice that they weren't going to test me on Fridays in the outpatient, and they didn't. So I managed to get drunk on Thursday nights, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 7 more months after being demoted at the workplace, after getting the DUI, after, oh, here's my favorite incomprehensible demoralization. I just remembered this morning. Remember when I told you that I had legal prescription drugs? Now I'm crossed the line and I bought my first illegal prescriptions from Jose, who's the older brother of one of my students. And on a Wednesday night, I took dabs with Jose in the middle of my kitchen and he took a video of me. Yeah, super special. I think that was the turning point for me because I cared so much about that 5th grade student. I was a shining hope for her. We had a real special bond in the classroom. And here's her brother sharing a video of her teacher taking dabs in the kitchen. That's where my drug use took me. I remember that this morning. So it wasn't like a huge, another DUI. I'm still teaching, haven't lost my career. And I'm on my way on a Sunday night to go fill up a growler. By then, you know, I'm thinking if I just drink beer, it'll fill me up and I won't drink as much, right? I'd gone from vodka, wine, now I'm drinking craft beers and growlers, Xanax, all the other. And I cannot tell you, except for that I had been in the rooms, I had had some significant amount of time. My last sponsor, this is a part of my story, she had 17 years. Her son was killed in a tragic, he was an athlete in our high school and was killed in a tragic accident. She went back out. And that last sponsor, I went back out with her. I partied with my sponsor who had 17 years clean and sober. So she was my last sponsor, but she had sponsored a gal named Rainey who had stayed. When Allison went back out, Rainey found another sponsor and I knew where to go. I had been in and out of the rooms. I first found the rooms. This is something important to notice, that when my dad went to treatment my freshman year in high school, I identified as an alcoholic with him. I didn't identify as much in my mom's room with Al-Anon. So I identified probably at age 13. I spent another year at age 21 in the rooms the night that I spent with the Palestinian Liberation Organization. I scared me and I spent another year. I had 4 or 5 years at one time, had 4 or 5 years, and I always knew where to go. And there was no cataclysmic event this Sunday night. There was no big hoopla. I just was pulling my car into we had like a fancy grocery store, kind of like what's that one over here? Good Food Store. We had like a good food store in town, and I was they had growlers that you could fill up. And for some reason that night, I didn't pull into the parking lot of the grocery store. My car, and it's almost as if Spirit took my car, and I drove that car down West Main, left, and parked outside of the Unity Church. I knew when the meeting was, and I knew who would be there. And I walked in the room, and Rainey was there. She and I had served some time in the program before, and she was still there. And I loved what I saw on her face. I said, Rainey, I'm back, man. I'm done. Will you be my sponsor? Sunday night, April 1st, 2018 was, I hope, my last drink. I had gotten rid of the weed, had gotten rid of the pills. I still was taking a little bit of trazodone at night. And she said, we're to get you off that too. And I stand before you so uh, so incredibly humble. Before I just fucked around with AA, I did 1, 2, buckle my shoe, was out the door. I gave him the rooms and I thought I was all that. I think had the career, had the master's degree, had the big house on the golf course. And I came all the way in and I sat all the way down. And I started to look at you guys as more the same than different. And Rainey, I tell you, she's only 35 years old, but that girl's a guru. She has taken me from broken. Mhm. And she's helped this little Humpty Dumpty, this little girl with her ponytails that were too tight. And she's helped me piece by piece put together a life that I can't believe that I get to live today. I retired after 32 years of teaching and I moved back to Portland and I got to make amends to my mom. I got to be with her for 3 years, taking care of her. And boy, she was something, that one. She was a real good Al-Anon and real controlling and maybe histrionic and narcissistic. I don't know. She was an opera singer. She was one of those very few Native women that got out and married well and went to college. She was one of the first natives at Washington State University. She majored in music. She had a voice of an angel. And my dad played the piano for her. He was a concert pianist. And yeah, she was something. She was really something. And we got to talk and we got to really bond those last 3 years. And when she passed away, it afforded me the opportunity to move here. I had really hoped to get back to the land of my ancestors. And I think she would be really proud to know that I'm here standing with you with almost 6 years honest, clean time this time. And as God would have it, I got called last night. I didn't know what the hell I was going to say today. I just knew I needed to speak from my heart and I knew I needed to tell my story because I've been a little tight, last few days. The body remembers. I found my mom with her brain having exploded a year ago this week. 75% of her brain had been blown up from a aneurysm. And I got to call the EMT and I got to hold her hand in the ambulance. That's what AA does for us. We get to be there for me. And the other huge part of my story is that both of my kids have followed me. My daughter and I did cocaine with a guy named Mango in Colorado. That's fucking nuts. Her boyfriend had broken up with her, and I asked her if I could tell the story. I said, this is the mother that had the prayer meetings at her house. Her boyfriend broke up with her in Colorado. She goes, Mom, I'm going to go do some coke in the bathroom with Mango. And I said, no, you're not going to do that alone. So yeah, I had yet to do cocaine. That was like 10 years ago. And so that started a new thing because she lived in Costa Rica, and down there it's really pure and clean and close to Colombia. And so yeah, we did cocaine with the highest ranking Via Verde drug dealer in Costa Rica, you know. I asked her if I could tell you that that's the shit I do because I'm crazy. I'm a crazy drunk. I do the craziest things. And I don't have to live like that anymore. I can live with my inside values, which I always had. You know, I grew up in a family with really strong values, but when I drank, my values didn't match my outward behavior. And that's what AA has done for me. AA has caused me to be able to do a deep dive into who I really am and who I really want to be. And now my behaviors begin to match what is inside. I can't give enough praise to this program. I'm a group project. I have Rainey, my main sponsor, but I also have Jack. He lives in Oregon. And you know, the big book talks about trusted friends, really. Doesn't really use the word sponsor. It uses trusted friends. And I have this man, he's a Vietnam vet, and he also married an Ojibwe woman. And he is just my confidant. There's just nothing I can tell that man to get him not to love me. I have Sharda. She's another one of my, Jack will have 51 years this year. And he saw me ping pong backing out of the rooms. So when I came back in, he grabbed a hold of me and said, "You don't ever have to use again. You don't have to make a mess out of your life anymore, Carrie Ann. Just come all the way in, sit all the way down." So I've got Jack, I've got Sharda. She's got 31 years. And these are people that I regularly call. These are my family of choice today. These are the people that when I'm a little, my ponytails are a little too tight, I can call them. And they ground me, you know, they bring me back down to right size. And in 6 years, I'm just happy to say that I am mostly stable. Like that's a miracle for this little crazy kid that, you know, my parents would put me in Greek school on Saturdays just to get me out of the house. They put me in the gym. They even signed me up for hula and tap dances classes because I was just so wired from the beginning, you know. And it's so funny because Kelly said, "What are you going to talk about today?" I said, "I'm going to talk about the 11th step." My daughter. So what are you going to share about? And she goes, "You probably won't. You'll probably get there, and hopefully Spirit will take over." And I did want to end with that. If you are new to the program and you're just working those first couple steps and you haven't found a God of your understanding, that's been a big part of my journey is wrestling with those kind of Christian beliefs, kind of Buddhist beliefs, kind of native beliefs, and getting to really explore the confounds of the mystical spiritual experience. um, it says that we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. And that was my experience when I really got serious and I really dug deep and I really did the steps, not the 1, 2, buckle my shoe. I started to have a spiritual awakening that was real. And you don't have to wait, I guess, is if there's one thing I want to end with is you don't have to wait until you get to the 11th step to start praying. And you don't even have to understand how to pray. You can just talk to your trusted friends and kind of ask them what they do. Try it on for size. You know, it's one big experiment, this spiritual life that we live today. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, get your big book out and read 86, 87 and 88 and just begin to open up your mind, you know. It's been said that we come in with a concept of God that stands for gift of desperation, you know. And then we come in and we hang out with this group of drunks, right? And then we get that good orderly direction. And that's really been my experience. most of us alcoholics are kind of undisciplined people. So we come in and we get, I don't know, we just become this group project and we get to help each other and we get to explore these spiritual concepts of our own understanding. And then we get this life that's just a miracle. Like I do my laundry today. I take showers. I have a pretty consistent exercise routine. I eat pretty well. Um, my kids talk to me. They love me. I pay my bills on time. Um, I just can't say enough about what AA has given me. And I didn't say anything they had planned to say. But maybe that prayer helped me get step aside, and maybe you heard something that you haven't heard before. Most of you guys know my crazy story. But just keep coming back. It's all these little trite sayings that we have are just so true. You don't ever have to get drunk again. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to have the door swing out and back in and think you're all that in a bag of chips. Just get humble. Come in, get honest. Come in, find somebody that you can, I don't know, do the Catholic priest thing and confess your shit. That was powerful for me. That moment that I did my fifth step this time around, when I really got honest, um, boy, it just gave me wings, just gave me wings to fly. So I want to go back to that first poem, and I want to tell you that's the life I live today. If I can find it, because it's true. Truth is my foundation. I'm free to fly where spirit will bring me now. I'm free to go where the winds of life will blow. Across the sky, spirit and the spirit of AA will show me how to spread my wings and rise up with the light. Grandmother, grandfather, creator, please hear my prayer. Eternal ancient wisdom, your essence is everywhere, guiding me on into the new, guiding me on to what is true. Thanks. I'm Carrie Ann and I'm an alcoholic.